Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ. A warm welcome to you on behalf of Vatican Media, Vatican Radio and my colleagues here at the Vatican Dicastery for Communication. I'm Sean Patrick Lovett and I'm here to provide the live commentary for you of Pope Francis' discourse and visit with the diplomatic authorities and civil society of Japan. The Holy Father is on his apostolic visit to Japan. He's in Tokyo right now at the Prime Minister's palace. And in just a few moments, we're going to be listening to the words of welcome, the welcoming remarks by Japanese Prime Minister Mr. Shinzo Abe.
ローマ教皇大下ご列席の皆様、日本政府を代表して一言ご挨拶を申し上げます。教皇大下、日本へまた総理大臣官邸へようこそお越しくださいました。
I welcome you most wholeheartedly on your visit.
教皇と私はただいま
Pope Francis and I just had intimate talks together. Pope Francis has sent his congratulations on the accession of His Majesty the Emperor to the imperial throne. He also graciously met this morning with people who suffered from the Great East Japan earthquake. I extended my profound appreciation to Pope Francis for his deep thoughtfulness. I have learned that Pope Francis has had a strong desire to visit Japan ever since he was young. Over here today, a great many people have come in the hopes of meeting you, Your Holiness, including Deputy Prime Minister Aso Taro, who is just there. His Catholic name is Francisco, the same as yours. You might have been surprised. That's true. Now, in welcoming Pope Francis and offering these remarks, I would like to touch upon one of his many general audiences. It was a speech at the Vatican on January 15, 2014. In it, Pope Francis referred indirectly to historical occurrence that took place in Japan. It is something that happened about 150 years ago, on March 17, 1865. Some people unexpectedly came to visit the church that had just been constructed in a place called Ora in Nagasaki. Men and women with children in tow. They numbered a dozen or so in all. They hailed from a place called Urakami. The priest, Father Bernard Petitjean, prayed earnestly as they watched. Before long, a woman emerged from the group and approached him. And to him she asked the question, where is the statue of Sancta Maria? Those words must have been quite a cause of astonishment for Father Petitjean, who wrote out in a letter he sent to Paris the very next day the Romanized version of the Japanese he heard. Sancta Maria no gozo wa doko. Until that day, about 220 years had passed since Japan had last had any Catholic priests. It was the miraculous moment when it first came to light that there were people of endurance who had continued to follow their beliefs in the midst of persecution beyond description. It is said that a certain teaching had been handed down in that community which had survived by mutually helping and encouraging each other. After waiting 7 generations, a priest will come from across the sea. The resilience to maintain unity among the circle of believers and to adhere to their faith all throughout the long span of what was in fact 7 generations until that day is something that cannot but shake our very souls even now, transcending time and space and differences in religion. And yet, history is harsh indeed. In the course of time, an atomic bomb would fall on that same Nagasaki, and moreover directly above the people of Urakami. On display is a photograph. It was taken somewhere near Nagasaki. The time was 1945, after the atomic bomb had exploded, and likely to be around the time that summer gives way to autumn. Captured therein is a young boy around 10 years of age. On his back is a child, head hanging limp, eyes closed, who appears to be the boy's brother, his baby brother. The place where the boy, barefoot, stands at rigid attention, straight as an arrow, is the crematorium. The small child on his back had already breathed his last, and the boy had come to return the child to the earth. Pope Francis made this photograph into a card, adding the comment, "The sadness of the child is expressed only by his lips, bitten and oozing blood." Pope Francis widely distributed this card, inscribed with the words, "The fruit of war," followed by his signature. That very same photograph was used at the place where Pope Francis offered prayers yesterday in Nagasaki. I am at a loss for words. The weight of the sorrow and pain wrought by the atomic bomb, and also at the profundity of the prayers offered by Pope Francis, who show his compassionate consideration of this and whose heart goes out in such great sympathy for it. As the only country to have experienced the horror of nuclear devastation in war, Japan is a country with the mission of leading international community's efforts to bring about a world free of nuclear weapons. This is my steadfast belief and the firmly established principle of the Japanese government. We will continue to work to build a bridge between nuclear weapon states and non-nuclear weapon states. I declare here that we will be utterly tireless in our efforts to promote dialogue while obtaining cooperation from both sides. Your Holiness Pope Francis, for 70-plus years since the war, we in Japan have single-mindedly and unwaveringly pursued peace and freedom. It was the late Ogata Sadako, who served as United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, who spread to the world the thinking that the most important thing is to strengthen each individual human being and enable each and every one to dream big for the future. Japan has continued to cultivate young people who believe this, and not only believe it, but also demonstrate it through action. I, for one, and indeed a great many Japanese, take pride in this fact. Now, at this very moment, Japan Overseas Cooperation volunteers are in the most impoverished areas around the world carrying out their activities. These are young people who, thanks to their innate tenacity, even if they come down with malaria, will spare no effort to provide hope to the poor, those in weak positions, women, and children. At the same time, however, at this very moment, when we enjoy peace, there are people being persecuted. There are people imprisoned without cause, waiting for release. In the same way that Pope Francis says, proteger toda vida, protect all life. We must not forsake anyone in the depths of such kinds of despair. We who respect freedom and cherish human rights must, without fail, rescue people who cannot see the light of hope and can find only despair. Having had the opportunity of observing at such an intimate distance Pope Francis, who walks right alongside the poor and the disadvantaged and keeps pushing on forward, I too have renewed my determination, a determination to press on tirelessly in order to make the world a better place. I will end my remarks by quoting some lines by Pope Francis. Challenges exist to be overcome. Let us be realists, but without losing our joy, our boldness, and our hope-filled commitment. Thank you for listening.
Japanese Prime Minister Mr. Abe Shinzo there, his welcoming remarks to Pope Francis. The voice you heard was the voice of his official translator coming to us directly from the Kantei building, which is the palace where the Prime Minister has his office in Tokyo. We now listen to our own Holy Father, Pope Francis, reminding you that you are joining us live for this broadcast of the Pope's meeting with authorities, civil society, and the diplomatic corps here in Tokyo, Japan.
Señor Primer Ministro, honorables miembros del Gobierno, ilustres miembros del cuerpo diplomático, señoras, señores.
Mr. Prime Minister, honorable members of the government, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen.
I
thank the Prime Minister for his kind words of introduction, and I offer respectful greetings to you, distinguished authorities, and members of the diplomatic corps. Each of you, in his or her own way, is devoted to working for peace and prosperity for the people of this noble nation and the nations that you represent. I am grateful in a special way to Emperor Naruhito for having received me this morning. I offer him my good wishes, and I invoke God's blessings on the imperial family and all the Japanese people at the beginning of the new era inaugurated by his reign.
tuvieron sobre estas tierras.
The friendly relations existing between the Holy See and Japan are long-standing and rooted in the appreciation and admiration felt by the first missionaries for this land.
Quien quiera ver qué cosa nuestro Señor ha dado al hombre.
We have only to recall the words of the Jesuit Alessandro Valignano, who in 1579 wrote, "Whoever wishes to see what our Lord has bestowed upon man need only come to Japan to see it." Historically, many contacts and cultural and diplomatic missions have fostered this relationship and helped to surmount moments of tension and trouble. These contacts have gradually taken on institutional form for the benefit of both parties. I have come to confirm Japanese Catholics in their faith, their charitable outreach to those in need, and their service to the country of which they are proud citizens.
Sensible al sufrimiento de los menos afortunados y de las personas con discapacidad.
As a nation, Japan is particularly sensitive to the suffering of those less fortunate, the handicapped, and the disabled. The theme of my visit is Protect All Life, in the recognition of its inviolable dignity and the importance of showing solidarity and support to our brothers and sisters in any kind of need. I have had a powerful experience of this in listening to the stories of those affected by the triple disaster, and was touched by the hardships that they have endured. In the footsteps of my predecessors, I have also come to implore God and to invite all persons of goodwill to encourage and promote every necessary means of dissuasion so that the destruction generated by atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki will never take place again in human history. History teaches us that conflicts and misunderstandings between peoples and nations can find valid solutions only through dialogue, the only weapon worthy of man and capable of ensuring lasting peace. I am convinced of the need to deal with the nuclear question on the multilateral plane, promoting a political and institutional process capable of creating a broader international consensus and action. A culture of encounter and dialogue, marked by wisdom, insight, and breadth of vision, is essential for building a more just and fraternal world. Japan has recognized the importance of promoting personal contacts in the fields of education, culture, sport, and tourism, knowing that these can contribute in no small measure to the harmony, justice, solidarity, and reconciliation that are the mortar of the edifice of peace. We see an outstanding example of this in the Olympic spirit, which unites athletes from throughout the world in a competition based not necessarily on rivalry, but rather on the pursuit of excellence. I am confident that the Olympic and Paralympic Games to be held in Japan this coming year can serve as an impetus for a spirit of solidarity that transcends national and regional borders and seeks the good of our entire human family. In these days, I have experienced and have come to esteem once more the precious cultural heritage that Japan, throughout many centuries of its history, has been able to develop and preserve, and the profound religious and moral values that characterize this ancient culture.
sino también para capacitar a las generaciones presentes y futuras a fin de
Good
que
relations between the
valoren
different
los
religions
principios
are not only
éticos que
essential for a
sirven de
future of
base
peace,
a una
but for
sociedad
training present
verdaderamente
and
justa y
future
humana.
generations to cherish
En
the
palabras
ethical
del
principles
documento sobre
that
la
serve as the
fraternidad humana,
foundation for a truly
que
just and
firmé con el gran
humane
imán de
society.
Al-Azhar el pasado mes de febrero, nuestra preocupación compartida por el futuro de la familia humana nos impulsa a
In the
asumir
words of
la
the document
cultura
on
del
human
diálogo
fraternity
como
that
camino,
I signed with
la
the Grand Imam of
colaboración común
Al-Azhar
como
last
conducta,
February,
el
our
conocimiento
shared concern
recíproco
for the
como
future of the
método
human
y
family
criterio.
impels us to the adoption of a culture of
Ningún
dialogue as the
visitante
path,
de Japón
mutual
deja de admirar la
cooperation as the
belleza
code of
natural de
conduct,
este país,
reciprocal understanding
expresada a
as
lo
the
largo de
method
los
and
siglos
standard.
por sus poetas y artistas, y simbolizada sobre todo por la imagen de los cerezos
No
en flor.
visitor to Japan can fail to be moved by the sheer natural beauty of this country, long celebrated by its poets and artists, and symbolized above all by the image of the cherry blossom.
Sometida no solo a desastres naturales, sino también a la codicia.
Yet the very delicacy of the cherry blossom reminds us of the fragility of our common home, subjected not only to natural disasters, but also to greed, exploitation, and devastation at the hands of human beings. As the international community struggles to honor its commitments to protecting creation, it is the young who are increasingly speaking up and demanding courageous decisions. They challenge us to see that the world is not a possession to be squandered, but a precious legacy to be handed down. For our part, we owe them real answers, not empty words, actions, not illusions. In this regard, an integral approach to the protection of our common home must also consider its human ecology. A commitment to protection means confronting the growing gap between rich and poor in a global economic system that enables a select few to dwell in opulence, while the majority of the world's population lives in poverty. I am aware of the concern of the Japanese government for the promotion of different programs in this regard, and I encourage it to persevere in shaping a growing awareness of co-responsibility among the world's nations. Human dignity needs to be at the center of all social, economic, and political activity. Intergenerational solidarity must be fostered, and at every level of community life, concern must be shown for those who are forgotten and excluded. I think particularly of the young, who so often feel overwhelmed in facing the challenges of growing up, the elderly and the lonely, who suffer from isolation. We know that, in the end, the civility of every nation or people is measured not by its economic strength, but by the attention it devotes to those in need and its capacity to be fruitful and promote life. Now, as my visit to Japan draws to a close, I once again express my gratitude for the invitation I received, the gracious hospitality with which I have been met, and the generosity of all those who contributed to its happy outcome. In presenting these thoughts for your consideration, I wish to encourage you in your efforts to shape a social order ever more protective of life. ever more respectful of the dignity and rights of each member of our human family. Upon you and your families and all those whom you serve, I invoke an abundance of divine blessings. Thank you very much. Pope Francis addressing authorities, diplomatic corps, representatives of civil society in Tokyo, Japan, at the conclusion, as he himself said, of his visit to this country. In fact, this is his last event today. Today has been a very full day. It began at 10 o'clock in the morning, Japan time, with a meeting with victims of the so-called triple disaster, the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear radiation disaster of 2011. He then had a private visit with Emperor Naruhito, as you heard earlier. He met with young people in the cathedral and then celebrated Holy Mass at the Tokyo Dome. So this meeting with the Prime Minister, diplomatic corps and authorities concludes what is essentially his last day here in Japan. Tomorrow, he begins the day with a Mass that he celebrates with members of the Society of Jesus. He will then pay a visit to the elderly and infirm priests at Sophia University and visit that university before he leaves for the airport to return to Rome. So our next radio commentary in English will be that visit to Sophia University in Tokyo, beginning at 2 a.m. Rome time, 10 a.m. in Japan, and we invite you to join us. Thank you to all our friends of Catholic TV, Salt and Light TV, Shalom World TV, EWTN TV, Catholic Faith Network, and CBS News, and all of you who are joining us on local radio stations and different platforms and devices. Make sure you interact with us on our social media platforms, and remember the discourses you just heard are available on our website, Vatican News, that's with 2 N's, vaticannews.va. Until next time, on behalf of Vatican Radio and Vatican Media, I'm Sean Patrick Lovett, wishing you every blessing. Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ.